That wasn't just an approach that was taken by the United States and Russia. But it was an approach taken by the P5+1 as well as the International Atomic Energy Agency, the IAEA. So what we've seen from the start is that a host of countries, but led by countries like the United States and Russia, have said to Iran, "We are willing to work through diplomatic channels to resolve this issue." And unfortunately, Iran has consistently rebuffed our approach. And I think that Russia has been a very strong partner in saying that it has no interest. In bringing down Iranian society or the Iranian government, but it does have an interest. As we all do, in making sure that each country is following its international obligations. The second way in which I think the START Treaty has influenced our discussions about Iran is its scent. A strong signal that the United States and Iran or the United States and Russia are following our own obligations under the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, and that our interest in Iran or North Korea or any other country following the NPT is not based on singling out any one country. But rather sends a strong signal that all of us have an obligation, each country has an obligation to follow the rules of the road internationally to ensure a more secure future for our children and our grandchildren. And so I think the fact that we are signing this treaty, the fact that we are willing, as the two leading nuclear powers, to continually work on reducing our own arsenals, I think should indicate the fact that we are willing to be bound by our obligations, and we're not asking any other countries to do anything different. but simply to follow the rules of the road that have been set forth and have helped to maintain at least a lack of the use of nuclear weapons over the last several decades, despite, obviously, the Cold War. And the concern that I have in particular, a concern that I think is the most profound security threat to the United States. Is that with further proliferation of nuclear weapons, with states obtaining nuclear weapons and potentially using them to blackmail other countries or potentially not securing them. Effectively or passing them on to terrorist organizations, that we could find ourselves in a world in which not only state actors but also potentially non-state actors are in possession of nuclear weapons. And even if they don't use them, would then be in a position to terrorize the world community. That's why this issue is so important, and that's why we are going to be pushing very hard to make sure that both smart and strong sanctions end up being in place soon to send a signal to Iran and other countries that this is an issue that the international community takes seriously. President Medvedev's response, deleted text and audio. Reporter's question, deleted text and audio. President Medvedev's response, deleted text and audio. President Obama, the United States Senate has the obligation of reviewing any treaty and ultimately, ratifying it. Fortunately, there is a strong history of bipartisanship when it comes to the evaluation of international treaties, particularly arms control treaties. And so I have already engaged in consultation with the chairman. of the relevant committees in the United States Senate. We are going to broaden that consultation now that this treaty has been signed. My understanding is that both in Russia and the United States, it's going to be posted on the internet, appropriate to a 21st century treaty. And so people not only within government but also the general public will be able to review. In an open and transparent fashion, what it is that we've agreed to. I think what they will discover is that this is a well-crafted treaty that meets the interests of both countries. That meets the interests of the world in the United States and Russia reducing. Its nuclear arsenals and setting the stage for potentially further reductions in the future. And so I'm actually quite confident that Democrats and Republicans in the United States Senate having reviewed this, will see that the United States has preserved its core national security interests. That it is maintaining a safe and secure and effective nuclear deterrent. But that we are beginning to once again move forward, leaving the Cold War behind, to address new challenges in new ways. And I think the START Treaty represents an important first step in that direction. And I feel confident that we are going to be able to get it ratified. All right. Thank you very much, everybody. President Medvedev, thank you, sir. Next time. Barack Obama. State of the Nation Address to a Joint Session of Congress. Delivered February 24, 2009. Madam Speaker, Mr. Vice President, members of Congress, and the First Lady of the United States. I've come here tonight not only to address the distinguished men and women in this great chamber, but to speak frankly and directly to the men and women who sent us here. I know that for many Americans watching right now, the state of our economy is a concern that rises above all others. And rightly so. If you haven't been personally affected by this recession, you probably know someone who has a friend, a neighbor, a member of your family. You don't need to hear another list of statistics to know that our economy is in crisis. Because you live it every day. It's the worry you wake up with and the source of sleepless nights. It's the job you thought you'd retire from but now have lost. The business you built your dreams upon. That's now hanging by a thread. The college acceptance letter your child had to put back in the envelope. The impact of this recession is real, and it is everywhere. But while our economy may be weakened and our confidence shaken, though we are living through difficult and uncertain times, tonight I want every American to know this. We will rebuild, we will recover, and the United States of America will emerge stronger than before. The weight of this crisis will not determine the destiny of this nation. The answers to our problems don't lie beyond our reach. They exist in our laboratories and universities, in our fields and our factories, in the imaginations of our entrepreneurs and the pride of the hardest working people on earth. Those qualities that have made America the greatest force of progress. And prosperity in human history we still possess in ample measure. What is required now is for this country to pull together. Confront boldly the challenges we face, and take responsibility for our future once more. Now, if we're honest with ourselves, we'll admit that for too long, we have not always met these responsibilities as a government or as a people. I say this not to lay blame or look backwards, but because it is only by understanding how we arrived at this moment that we'll be able to lift ourselves out of this predicament. The fact is, our economy did not fall into decline overnight. Nor did all of our problems begin when the housing market collapsed or the stock market sank. We have known for decades that our survival depends on finding new sources of energy. Yet we import more oil today than ever before. The cost of healthcare eats up more and more of our savings each year, yet we keep delaying reform. Our children will compete for jobs in a global economy that too many of our schools do not prepare them for. And though all these challenges went unsolved, we still managed to spend more money and pile up more debt. Both as individuals and through our government, than ever before. In other words, we have lived through an era where too often, short-term gains were prized over long-term. Prosperity. Where we failed to look beyond the next payment, the next quarter, or the next election. A surplus became an excuse to transfer wealth to the wealthy instead of an opportunity to invest in our future. Regulations were gutted for the sake of a quick profit at the expense of a healthy market. People bought homes they knew they couldn't afford from banks and lenders who pushed those bad loans anyway. And all the while, critical debates and difficult decisions were put off for some other time on some other day. Well, that day of reckoning has arrived, and the time to take charge of our future is here. Now is the time to act boldly and wisely to not only revive this economy. But to build a new foundation for lasting prosperity. Now is the time to jumpstart job creation, restart lending, and invest in areas like energy, healthcare. And education that will grow our economy, even as we make hard choices to bring our deficit down. That is what my economic agenda is designed to do, and that's what I'd like to talk to you about tonight. It's an agenda that begins with jobs. As soon as I took office, I asked this Congress to send me a recovery plan by President's Day that would put people back to work and put money in their pockets. Not because I believe in bigger government, I don't. Not because I'm not mindful of the massive debt we've inherited, I am. I called for action because the failure to do so would have cost more jobs and caused more hardships. In fact, a failure to act would have worsened our long-term deficit by assuring weak economic growth for years. That's why I pushed for quick action. And tonight, I am grateful that this Congress delivered. And pleased to say that the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act is now law.